Please welcome Sergeant First Class Micah Waltz-Konis.
Thank you, everybody. First thing I'd like to do is take a moment of silence as today marks the second anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. I, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you all today for being here with me, for joining together and saying no to these proposed cuts at veteran funeral honors. This is not a political or a partisan rally. This is a show your support for veterans. This is my ramification for blatant disregard towards a group of people to whom that you, Governor Malloy, and other politicians have publicly acknowledged as having the deepest admiration for. Today's veterans, as yesterday's veterans and tomorrow's veterans, will continue to fight for you, America, and every person who's an American, every single day, we will do this. We wrote that blank check filled with honor, service, sweat, tears, and blood, with the highest price of all being our lives. To the President of the United States, governors, senators, congressmen, and others, know this: we will not tolerate empty words. We will not be used as political pawns. On a joint Governor Malloy and Lieutenant Governor Wyman Veterans Day press release, 2014, it was said, "It's important that we thank our service members for their sacrifices, their bravery, and their patriotism. But it's equally important that we give back to them just as they have given to us." Sorry, it's windy. I hear all this service, sacrifice, we owe them, thank you, etc. But these words are apparently empty and shallow and just political tools. For if there were true, honest, and heartfelt, these cuts would have never, ever been a thought. I and you all would not have to stand here today in shock. To be honored in death is our time-honored right. When I heard about these cuts, I was traumatized. So affected by this, I can honestly say now that I have post-traumatic Malloy disorder. Some of the characteristics of PTMD are rallying, disbelief, sadness, anger, and shock. Perhaps you're suffering from this too. If so, please call this number. It's 860-566-4840. Or you could call toll-free, 1-800-406-1527. That will put you to the governor's office right up there. These proposals by the governor has brought great shame upon the office that he holds. He has placed his personal ethics above loyalties to duty, honor, and the oath of his office. He's placed that ahead of veterans, which he says he regards so high. And in addition, defending those profound and difficult choices in the means of pay raises and proposing to give money not to undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants. I want to share a quote that has meaning to me, and it's from the movie Act of Valor. No one is stronger or more dangerous than someone who can harness his emotions, his past, use it as fuel, as ammunition, as ink to write the most important letter of your life. Believe it or not, I learned this and saw something similar to this and more when I was a young man. Almost 3 years ago, I was shot and then hit by a suicide bomber in Afghanistan. Placed in a coma for 2 weeks, and I woke up physically helpless. I was crushed, broken, depressed, but somewhere deep inside me was still a flame. You see, it had been instilled in me, in my subconscious, to continue to fight to walk again, to continue to push myself, to fight these despicable proposed cuts. That fire, that drive was not just born in me, but there was a man who helped hone it and shape this. And that was my second father. He's a Special Forces Vietnam. This is off. Is that on now? There we go. Sorry. He's a Special Forces Vietnam veteran, a retired Windsor police officer, and his name is Carl Thomas. And he's right there. Carl is joined by his brother Bruce, who's also a Special Forces Green Beret Vietnam veteran. Where's Bruce? Thank you, Bruce. And it would be unjust if I didn't clearly point out all of you other Vietnam veterans here today. Let me thank you all, for you have helped pave the path so that today's veterans got a much better welcome home. So thank you. It would also be unjust if I didn't take the time to publicly thank my amazing and beautiful wife, Camilla, who still loves me today. And to all you other vets who have served in war or not, know this: we are all part of something equally important. For you are part of the foundation that holds this country together. And a country without a foundation like a house would fall apart. So thank you. And as my final thoughts, I've noticed a lot of people, doctors, psychologists, and representatives use the term PTSD with veterans. I and many others would like to propose a change. Rename it. Call it post-combat stress. For we and you do not have a disorder. You have an emotional and physical reactions to the things you saw, things you did. And unlike here in the civilian world, where you can get all that help you need immediately after, you were stuck over there day after day after day, having to do your same mission, and you weren't able to get the help, and you weren't able to come home. And remember this, again, you do not have a disorder. and none of you are broken beyond repair. So God bless you, and God bless our troops still serving in harm's way. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome VFW Commander Greg Smith.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you to all the veterans here today, particularly my VFW brothers and sisters. And thank you to the organizers of today's event for allowing me a few minutes to speak. The Veterans of Foreign Wars is pleased to stand with a bipartisan coalition of state senators and representatives who are committed to restoring state funding for the honor guard details at funerals of Connecticut's military veterans, which Governor Malloy removed from his budget. The VFW would like to remind Governor Malloy to remember this year, next year, and every year not to make the families of Connecticut's veterans pay for the state's inability to otherwise balance the state budget. The tens of thousands of VFW Connecticut members expect Governor Malloy and the members of the Connecticut General Assembly to live up to the full letter and intent of State Statute 2776, which requires funding for an honor guard detail at the funeral of veterans of the United States Armed Forces and National Guard when requested. Our veterans and their families who have sacrificed so much deserve no less than a complete detail, rendering the final tribute given to them by the grateful citizens of the Constitution State, Connecticut. Thank you to our elected representatives, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents for joining with the VFW and others to support the veterans and their families and communities throughout our great state. I was going to talk longer, huh?
We'd now like to welcome American Legion Rep. Paul Spitaleri, Deputy Service Commander.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Michael, for putting this together today. Good afternoon, fellow veterans and citizens. I'm Paul Spitaleri, Senior Vice Commander of the American Legion Department of Connecticut. The Department of Defense defines military funeral honors as the ceremonial paying of respect and final demonstration of the nation's gratitude to those who, in times of war and peace, faithfully defended our nation. Faithfully is the key word in this definition. These veterans fought for you and I, so that we do not have to fight. They have chosen to bear the pain and suffering of war so that we may be free. As veterans and citizens of the United States, we have a sacred duty and moral obligation to honor and memorialize those who died for us. Though they may be strangers, citizens, and veterans that we may never meet. I am curious to know what brought about the discussion to remove this military funeral honors from the budget entitlement. I don't hear about cuts in welfare or failed social programs, so I cut the budget to a program that honors the men and women who die so that we can even have these social programs to begin with, which makes me absolutely speechless. War is the result of failed politics. Freedom is not earned with handshakes and smiles. It is earned at the end of a bayonet. These honors pay respect to the fallen men and women who were drafted or volunteered to walk into the unknown, fully recognizing the hazards of their duty, willfully knowing that they may never return to their families or their country. The men and women who fought and died for our freedom and the freedom of the world come home every day broken, cleaved, or even by the ultimate sacrifice of giving one's life for the American dream. To remove the honor guard would be the same respect that our country gave its returning Vietnam veterans. And for what? What benefit does it give the state of Connecticut or its citizens other than the image that they could really care less about freedom or the American way of life? This is clearly the work of a politician passing a bill for the sake of passing a bill. It does absolutely nothing. The state will take this money and repurpose it how? Into a general fund? How can one stand to even bring themselves to sign a bill by definitions will remove loyalty, courage, selfless service, duty, respect, and honor to the American veterans whose soul be laid to rest as they volunteer to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The American veteran has fought the good fight. Burial honors are the absolute least we can do for them. Today, all of you need to recognize that they fought for us. I cannot emphasize that enough. The least we can do is fight to keep the military burial honors in place for them. How do we justify balancing the state budget on the souls of our deceased veterans? Thank you for being here today to show your support, and God bless all of you, and God bless our fallen. Thank you.
Sorry about that. We'd now like to welcome MOPH Rep. Bill Brewer.
Thank you, veterans and families, for showing up. I didn't make a speech because I didn't think it was necessary. All I need to say is this governor needs to pull his head out, okay? You know, here's a guy that gives multi-million dollars to these companies that are not going to create jobs in the state. We know that. We're not stupid. And it's just aggravating. It's aggravating that he has the audacity to want to do away with honor guards. I almost died in Vietnam. For what? Him? No, thank you. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Now please welcome DAV Rep. Barry. He's the DAV State Commander.
I'm Barry Bernier, DAV State Commander. Comrades, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, duty, honor, country. This motto, driven into the psyche of West Point cadets, so rightly captures the purpose of what we here today are attempting to accomplish. First, duty, what we perform so well and professionally in order to accomplish a mission. Country, our home, the land where we grow as a people together. And sandwiched between these words, in the middle, is honor. We the heroes all, whether combatant or non-combatant, some who gave some who gave all, deserve the honor of being buried with the respect and dignity of the Honor Guard. We want to leave our loved ones with the comfort that our service to duty to our country made a difference for all honorably. Governor Malloy, this small state, our Connecticut, a part of the great United States, must honor its veterans. So avoid your tendency to fiscally chop what's good for your warriors, as well as your families and friends, by dismissing the perpetuation of our local honor guard, thereby tossing our allocated funds into something presently, which is in effect, but is ridiculous, like a study researching the number of oysters that accumulate at the base of the Housatonic River. Thank you very much.
And now with a history of funeral honors, we'd like to welcome Sal Senna, Marine Corps League.
Thank you. Fellow veterans, esteemed guests, thank you. Thank you for allowing me up here. I look out there and I see the faces on my left, and you know what I see? I see religions of every denominations. I look on the right, and I see nationalities of every type. I see Americans from every walk of life. It's that special blend of men and women that has made this country great. It's because of you veterans who have spilled their blood that has made this country great. It's because of you veterans who have spilled their blood that we're able to walk freely in our streets. It's because of you veterans who have spilled their blood that we have that freedom of speech. When we enlisted in the armed forces, we swore an allegiance to this nation and the state. During that time in the military, we were held accountable for everything that we did for this nation. Now we are going to hold the lawmakers in this state accountable for all the promises that they made to us. For many years, this great nation has achieved great goals and prospered greatly, and it's all for what our veterans have done for this nation and the state. We were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice if called upon when we signed our name on that bottom line. There are those that say we have to turn to our politicians and lawmakers for answers to our problems. I say to you, look onto the many veteran grave markers throughout this country and state for the answers. They say that we are in a time when there are no heroes. Gone. I say to you, you just don't know where to look. The many cemeteries here in Connecticut with its rows of crosses and stars of David have been paying for our freedom. Each one of those markers is a monument to every veteran who is a hero that has served this nation proudly. The rendering of military funerals has always been a way this nation and the state has shown its deep gratitude to those in times of war and peace have faithfully defended this country. This ceremonial paying of respect is the final demonstration a grateful nation can provide to its veterans' families. The law says that, this is Connecticut law, says that every eligible veteran is entitled to military funeral honors provided by an honor guard detail, if requested by a family member or other representative of the veteran. The Military Funeral Honors Program is governed and funded by both federal and state law. I didn't write that law. They wrote that law here in Connecticut, all right? Up there at the fifth Capitol 50 years ago, all right? Now, what's the problem about now, all right? Now, things have changed. What have we done wrong that we don't deserve a state-paid funeral anymore? What have we done wrong? The feds are still willing to pay their share, but not the state. What have we done wrong that this state is no longer willing to pay their share for funeral honors? It has been brought to my attention that the governor of Connecticut is strongly considering rescinding Section 2776 of the Connecticut General Statutes that deals with funding for military funeral honors of Connecticut veterans on May 28. We, the veterans of this great state, have already sacrificed too much. The pay rate for honor guard members is $50 per day, regardless of the services at which they perform each and every given day. Sorry, folks. Gone with the wind. Payment is made from state or federal funds, depending on the circumstances. Currently, the state provides approximately, listen to this, 30% of the That's 30%, all right? It costs the state $150 a day. That's $150 for a 3-man funeral detail for each funeral detail. Some of these funeral details are serving as many as 2 to 5 funerals in one day for that same $150, all right? Tell me there's something wrong there, all right? The state might not think you're worth $150 for a funeral honors, but I think that every veteran deserves a state-paid funeral honors, even if the government doesn't think so. It is time for the veterans of the state to let these lawmakers know that we will not stand for it any longer. An old Mason once told me that to make strong concrete, you have to use a variety of aggregates. Well, it's you veterans out there from every walks of life that are the aggregates. And it's this country that has been made strong because of you. It's that strong bond that we have for each other, and it's going to prevail here. It's up to us to let those in the Capitol know that we are not going to bear down their weight on our shoulders anymore. God bless all you veterans, and God bless America.
And now we'd like to welcome Juan Cruz, President of the Hispanic American Veterans of Connecticut, with a history of our Gold Star families.
Thank you. I want to thank also Mr. Micah Conis, who invited me to be here. Once again, I'm the president of the Hispanic American Veterans of Connecticut. I'm still serving in the service, the military, came back from Iraq, and I have 21 years and continue to go because this is what I do. The Gold Star families. The Gold Star is a generic term used to describe a family member who has lost, and I said this again, who has lost a loved one in military service. Laying down your life for your country is the ultimate sacrifice one can make. It is the definition of heroic. It also creates a profound sense of loss for family and loved ones. The Gold Star family support, they strive to provide support to Gold Star families and encourage the general public to join the families in honoring and remembering these fallen heroes. To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die, by Thomas Campbell. While many Gold Star families take solace in the fact that their loved one heroically gave his or her life for our country, there is no escaping the enormity of pain caused by that loss. Many families dedicated themselves to a new mission, keeping the memory and legacy of their loved one alive. And Gold Star Family Support offers ways in which we can help the mission. Gold Star families submit their fallen hero to the Gold Star Family tribute page. These tributes are a great way to tell others about and provide insights into the life of these brave men and women. Gold Star Family Support also help Gold Star families establish and raise support for memorials, scholarship, foundations, and events in memory of their loved one. Nothing, I said again, nothing can adequately prepare a family for the news that a loved one has died while serving this, our country. Just as nothing can erase the pain caused by that loss, but we strive to ease this burden in any way possible. Whether it means reaching out to the family and providing them with information and a sympathetic ear, putting them in touch with other Gold Star families, or helping establish an event, memorial, or foundation in their loved one's memory, we do whatever we can in their time of need. We encourage all service members, and especially those casualty assistant call officers, to take the time to learn a bit about the services we offer to the Gold Star families and to provide that information to others, both military, family, civilian, who may be interested in those services. Please, please help us support Gold Star families. The website provides listing of memorials, scholarship, foundations, and events established in honor of those fallen heroes, where through contributions to memorial funds and foundation and participation in memorial events, your involvement is critical, ensuring the memory of these heroes live on in this heart of a great nation. Each year, Gold Star Family Support hosts a luminary initiative to raise awareness of and support for Gold Star Family Day. This is the last Sunday in September. I said again, the last Sunday during the month of September. On this date, organizations and individuals around the country come together to light star pattern luminaries at sundown. So please, join our Gold Star Luminary Initiative and help us honor and thank this family for the sacrifice they and their loved one have made on our behalf and we let them know that, if even just for a day, their burden is our burden too. Thank you very much.
And now we'd like to welcome a Gold Star sister, Angelina Maria. Angelina Santa Maria.
Come with me. Come with me. Stay here. It was July 13th, 2007. By far the most beautiful day I'd ever seen, and one I'll never forget. It was just about 70 degrees that afternoon. The sky was a powder blue, not a cloud in sight, kind of like today. It was also sad and somber as I drove my mother Jackie and my stepfather Jim to the funeral of Army Major Sid Brookshire. I was so distraught and upset with myself that I didn't get to go visit him in Rhode Island at the War College where he was teaching before he headed to Iraq. Sid cared about his men. He cared about his country. He wore his uniform with pride. He loved the outdoors and he enjoyed riding his motorcycle. He cared about his family. He cared about his wife Karen, the love of his life, and his two beautiful daughters, Faith Ann and Bethany. He was a man of integrity, strong character, and he cared deeply and strongly about what our American flag stands for. The red stripes proclaiming fearless courage and the integrity of American men and boys, the self-sacrifice and devotion of American mothers and daughters, the white stripes representing liberty and equality for all, the blue representing loyalty and faith, the stars representing eternal principles, liberty, justice, and humanity. And as a whole, our flag represents freedom of speech, religion, assembly, the press, and the sanctity of the home. It is the sacred emblem of our country. It symbolizes our birthright, our heritage of liberty, purchased with blood and sorrow, which is why when I stood in front of Sid's casket, the casket covered by the American flag, her stars at his head and her stripes over his left shoulder, I knew then that we are the land of the free because of the brave. Sid was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 64th Armor Regiment, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 3rd Infantry Division, Fort Stewart, Georgia, and he died on June 20th, 2007 in Baghdad of wounds sustained when an improvised explosive device detonated near his vehicle. Also killed were Army First Class David Bentz, Staff Sergeant Darren Hubble, and Specialist Joe Charfuros. The memorial and funeral was filled with great honor and pride. The Honor Guard, their traditional rifle gun salute, the Patriot Guard riders stood as protectors. The folding of the flag, that magnificent flag. I recall hearing one of the girls asking before the ceremonies began, "Who is that?" She was referring to the casket. My niece, who was maybe 7 then, responded, "That's Daddy." Her voice was so strong and assertive and so proud. The medals of honor given to Karen, Sid's mother, Jo Beth, and my stepfather, Jim. And last but not least, the heartfelt and moving taps that were played as we bowed our heads there in front of our veteran, our hero. These are the final treasured memories that we have of my stepbrother, Sid. And now I know this. No veteran should ever have their honor and their service compromised or reduced Sacred rights and honors should always and forever be part of the lasting memory of a service member, no matter what branch, no matter what rank, or if they served a day or for decades. Not now and not ever. The proposed budget cuts of these honors and rights must be restored, and in the future, these honors and rights should never be negotiated or compromised. I'm Angelina Santamaria, a Connecticut resident, a proud sister of a soldier killed in Iraq, the daughter of a Vietnam veteran, and a granddaughter of a World War II veteran. God be with our servicemen and women, and God bless America.
And now, with a reading of the names of all of our Connecticut's 65 fallen and post 9/11 wartime is Sue Martucci.
Thank you very much. I'm proud to be here today to read off the names of our most recent fallen that we've lost here from Connecticut in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And while I'm doing this, I would like to, if you're comfortable, call up any Gold Star family members who are here today. I can see some of them out there. Please join me up here so that we can all honor you and pay respect to you, and please say hi to them, you know, as you make your way through the crowd. If you're comfortable coming up, please do. Tech Sergeant John Chapman from Windsor Locks. Corporal Kemafum Chengawanzi from Waterford. Gunnery Sergeant Philip Jordan, Enfield. Specialist Wilfredo Perez Jr., Norwalk. Staff Sergeant Richard Eaton Jr. from Guilford. Sergeant David Friedrich, Naugatuck. Private First Class Anthony D'Agostino, Waterbury. Sergeant Major Philip Albert, Terryville. Private First Class Jeffrey Braun, Stafford Springs. Captain Eric Palawada, Farmington. Sergeant Benjamin Gilman, Meriden. Specialist Tiana Avery Felder, Bridgeport. Sergeant Felix Del Greco, Simsbury. DC3 Nathan Bruckenthal, Ridgefield. Private First Class Melissa Hobart, East Haven. Specialist Jacob Martyr Gutierrez, Norwich. CWO William Brennan, Woodbury. Corporal Kevin Dempsey, Greenwich. Sergeant Joseph Nolan, Waterbury. Lieutenant Colonel Michael McMahon, West Hartford. Staff Sergeant Henry Irizarry, Waterbury. Specialist Robert Hoyt, Ashford. Staff Sergeant Thomas Vitiliano, New Haven. Lance Corporal Lawrence Philippon, West Hartford. Lance Corporal John Schmidt III, Brookfield. Specialist Christopher Hoskins, Danielson. Major Stephen Reich, Washington Depot. Sergeant David Couillard, Glastonbury. Captain Brian Latendra, New Britain. Corporal Stephen Bixler, Suffield. Corporal Jordan Pearson, Milford. Lance Corporal Philip Johnson, Enfield. Private First Class Nicholas Medeiros, Wilton. Captain Jason Hamill, Salem. Staff Sergeant Joseph Faniff II, Eastford. Sergeant Richard Ford, East Hartford. Private First Class Stephen Richardson, Bridgeport. Private First Class Orlando Gonzalez, Bridgeport. First Lieutenant Keith Heidman, Norwich. Specialist Andre Craig, New Haven. Special Warfare Operator, First Class Jason Lewis, Brookfield. Sergeant Jason Lantieri, Killingworth. Corporal Christian Kotner, Waterbury. First Lieutenant Thomas Brown, Shelton. Sergeant First Class Edward Kramer, Southington. Specialist Dennis Pratt, Southington. Captain Benjamin Sclaver, Hamden. Corporal Jacob Latore, Waterbury. Staff Sergeant Ronald Spino, Waterbury. Lance Corporal Tyler Griffin, Voluntown. Staff Sergeant Edwin Rivera, Waterford. Sergeant Stephen DeLuzio, Glastonbury. Private First Class Jebra Noonan, Watertown. Specialist David Fahey, Norwalk. Sergeant First Class Di Han Park, Watertown. Staff Sergeant Frank Adamski III, Plainfield. Major Raymond Estelle II, New Haven. Specialist Richard Emmons III, North Granby. Private First Class Eric Sufreen, Woodbridge. Master Chief Petty Officer Seal Brian Bill, Stamford. Sergeant Edward Frank II, Hartford. Staff Sergeant Ari Cullers, Waterford. Specialist Philip Schiller, Winstead. Captain Andrew Pedersen Keel, Madison. Staff Sergeant Todd LeBreco, New Fairfield. All of these 65 will be honored in the Connecticut Trees of Honor Memorial in Middletown, Connecticut. I'm the founder and president of the Connecticut Trees of Honor Memorial, and this wonderful tribute started as a pay it forward idea to honor the fallen from our state and to honor all veterans. And we've already completed phase 1 in Middletown's Veterans Memorial Park last year. We invite you to stop by and take a walk around the memorial area. This year we will start phase 2 in hopes of completing everything this year. And we're planning a dedication for next spring. Details will follow. And we're very honored to honor our fallen and have a place for families to come. Half of the fallen that I read off are not even buried here in this state. It's not their final resting place. So the Connecticut Trees of Honor will serve as a place where families can come. Each of them is honored with a flowering tree, 4 different varieties, and they should be blooming soon, so it'll be a beautiful sight. And in front of each tree, we've installed a 3-foot tall granite post with a laser etched photo of each of our fallen. And the 4 flags are flying proudly over the site right now with further improvements and additions to be added to the park this summer. So thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Rifle detail post. Ready. Aim. Fire. But there's silence. Because the tradition, a time-honored tradition, has been removed by the governor's budget. One thing we can do is have you all rise for the playing of taps by State Republican Nick Castro. Please remain standing as we retire the colors. Our correction is State Representative Nick Castro with taps. Thank you very much. You know, I see a lot of veterans here, and I'm not a veteran, I'm a civilian. through radio have had an opportunity to support our veterans and our troops that are finished with their service or overseas still. And I see a lot of veterans, I see a lot of you supporting yourselves, backing each other in support, but I think we as the civilians need to be the home front for you all. We need to go to our elected representatives and make sure that your veterans get whatever they need. You know, so a civilian like myself, we may not understand what is being cut, but I think as civilians, what's important is that if a veteran needs it, a veteran gets it. That is the duty of us as a civilian. So I call out to all the civilians here to stand on the front lines to support our men and women in uniform when they get home, because that is when they need us the most. We'd like to now welcome Betsy Gara, I hope I pronounced that right, Executive Director of the Council of Small Towns, COST. Oh. Well, if we see her come back, we'll get you in the lineup. And now I'd like to also introduce you a guy I met on our 60-mile walk from Willimantic to West Hartford, Representative Tim Eckert.
Thank you, Jesse. Great seeing you. Thank you, Jesse. And that was quite a walk that Micah put on. So thanks for remembering that. You know, I'm kind of a numbers person. You know, I want to break this down a little bit for everybody, what we're really talking about here, so that you have an understanding of it. Yes, we want to make sure that we support our veterans. Me being one of those that when my time comes, I'd like to have that honor of having that honor guard be with me as I go away and for my family, to be quite honest with you. It's $469,533. That's what it is. It's a big number. Big number. Let me give you some other numbers and break it down for real. We honor 3,500 veterans here a year in Connecticut. 3,500 on average we lose a year. That's a lot of people that deserve this right. And as Sal said, it's about $150 a person, but $134 actually. $134. That's what we're talking about. I think that's minuscule for what each veteran, whether they serve 2 years or 22 years, deserve that honor when they are put to rest. Who's the honor? So can I? Thank you. Can the honor guard that are here, the honor guard members are here, could they raise their hands? Sal, I know you got some crew here.
Quite a few men.
Right. So you think about this isn't pay, folks. What they get isn't pay. This is a little step. Stand up, you guys. If you don't mind, if you can, please stand up. They give time, and they get a stipend that covers maybe their gas to where they go for that day. Thank you. I want you to be thanked because you're the ones that deserve. This is what we're talking about, folks. These guys coming out and continuing to serve. So thank you. And that's the numbers a part of it. For those of you that are veterans, you may remember this oath. I, and you said your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations in a uniform court of military justice. So help me God. That's when you signed that blank check that Micah talked to you about. That's when you signed it. And you did what you were told, and you came home to your families, some maybe not in whole, and some not at all. I promise to you, as your state representative serving in Connecticut, I will not support any cuts to our veterans this year and years forward. Thank you for your service.
Now I'd like to welcome Christy Carpino, Program Review and Investigation Committee.
I am not a veteran, but I am the daughter of a proud volunteer in Quiet Time, November 1970. And I am a granddaughter of a veteran. So I'm here to say more than thank you. Today's about two things, respect and honor. This cut was disrespectful. There is nothing more than I can say, and this cut was disrespectful. And I stand with each and every one of you. And today's about honor. I don't know each and every one of you by name, although Sal, Mike, and Skip, and I know Samantha's out there as well. I know each and every one of your story. Each of you proudly stood up and defended everything I stand for here as a state representative. And each of your families sent you off to foreign places and hoped and prayed every day that you were okay. So I'm here to say that we stand with you, and that none of us would be here without you. So thank you every day, and to know that this was disrespectful.
And now I'd like to welcome Representative Stanesky.
Good afternoon. Wow, what a great day for a rally. And first, I want to thank all of you for your service. My name is Pam Stanesky, and I represent Milford and Orange, the proud home of VFW 7788. He's a good friend. The American Legion Post 196, American Legion Post 127, and the DAV. But I'm really humbled to stand here before you as the proud daughter of a Vietnam veteran, and one who, when you played taps, brought me back to 6 years old, and my uncle who signed that blank check and cashed it in. My father raised myself and my sisters to respect and honor those who have chosen to defend our freedoms. And without your amazing sacrifice, we would not have those freedoms we cherish today, nor would we be able to stand here. So I stand with my colleagues together, hand in hand, and with you, arm in arm, to voice support and to fight to make sure that full honor and celebration of life and service that you rightly deserve is given to you. And I believe I can stand for speak for everyone here, veterans and non-veterans, saying, hands off Connecticut State Honor Guard. Thank you. Hoorah. I love you, Marines. My father loved you too. He was in the Navy, he gave you a ride wherever you were going. I'm just waiting for somebody to come take the mic.
You know, I was just reminded, I was hoping she'd fill some more time, but this is the 70th year of our victory over Japan in World War II. So how about it for our World War II veterans? How could they be denied such an honor? How could they? They couldn't. We'd now like to welcome Representative Dubitsky.
You don't know what an honor it is to stand before you guys up here. This is a country, we are at war. We, from September 11th, 2001, till now, we are a country at war. And we were at war before then, but we didn't even know it. And after September 11th, we were all told, go back to your lives, go back shopping, Go back to your little electronic gizmos. Don't worry about it. Our men and women in uniform will take care of it. And God knows they did, and you did. But the rest of us kind of lost touch with it. We kind of went back to our lives as we were told we were supposed to. And that's a sad thing, because that separation made us forget. I mean, we weren't paying attention. You were. The men and women in uniform were paying attention, but the rest of the country wasn't. And that's a problem, because now we have a situation where those that are not in uniform are still not paying attention. And we have to, because we're still at war. And we need to give the respect that's due to the men and women in uniform, whether active or veterans or deceased. And we're not doing that right now. We have to do that. We have to start acting like a country again. This state needs to start acting like it's part of the United States. Our veterans are all United States military, not Connecticut. We are part of the United States. The people of this state, the people in this building, need to start acting like it, need to give the respect that's due to our United States military and our veterans. Thank you.
We'd now like to welcome Representative Alexander.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today, and thank you, Micah, for putting on such a wonderful event. I'm David Alexander, state representative out of Enfield, and did 4 years in the Marine Corps active duty, 3 years in the reserves, got out as a captain up there at 125, 1st Battalion, 25th Marine. So to the Marine Corps League, hoorah, gentlemen. You know, another Marine who is a hero of mine is a gentleman named, how are you, Connor Becca, over there from Enfield. And I'd also like to mention Post 154, American Legion, and Post 80 from Enfield being here. I appreciate that. But a hero of mine is a gentleman named Jim Webb, Purple Heart recipient and Navy Cross winner, or recipient in Vietnam. When he was Secretary of the Navy at the 40th anniversary of the invasion of D-Day, he made a comment that there is strength in remembering. And I think a lot of the legislators here, not speaking today or participating, don't realize the strength of remembering, the strength of keeping sacred and remembering those who served and sacrificed, and the strength of this program. I won't go on and belabor it, but it does right now violate state law if we cut the funding. We need to ensure that law remains. We need to ensure we keep doing this, because there is strength in remembering. This is important. This is something that some of my friends from 1st Battalion, 25th Marine that are Connecticut residents would want at their burial. So this is something that I want to work on. I'm somebody on the Veterans Affairs Committee that tries to work on more younger veteran issues. With a lot of the younger veterans coming home, we have about 5,000 or 6,000 of them expected to come home in the next 5 years. But this is important for all veterans. And my final comment I will make is the famed military tactician von Clausewitz always said that politics is warfare by different means. So with that being said, keep up the fight. Contact your legislators, contact people in the governor's office. Let them know how important this is, because it is. And I think a big disconnect is people just don't realize how important, how sacred this is. Because there is a small amount of people that do serve in the military compared to the rest of the population. And I think the more we educate our legislature, our government, how important this is. Also, we're one of the few states that actually does this. It's a very modern, progressive idea that should be nationwide, done nationwide. The more we educate everyone here at the Capitol about this, I think the more we stand a chance of getting this restored in the budget, the better we have a chance of keeping this law enacted that needs to stay enacted, and we can go forward from there. So thank you for the opportunity for speaking, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And now a representative who performed taps for us earlier, Representative Nicastro.
Good afternoon. It's an honor and a privilege for me to stand here in front of so many veterans and their families. I say that sincerely. I'm proud to be a veteran. I put 6 years in the Navy, 4 on a destroyer, then I spent 24 years in the Army National Guard. I remember the World War II so clearly. I was only 5 years old. My mother's sister lost her son, Bob. He went down in a B-17. And then when Korea came around, I lost another cousin. And I thought, wow. But you never know what it's going to be like unless you're out there. You know, we could try and explain it to our people, our leaders here, but unless they served, unless they've seen it, they don't truly understand what's going on. I can recall time after time, I was on a destroyer, we'd have a jet come down and crash in the ocean. And we'd have to go out in a motor whaleboat and look for survivors or pieces. And I can remember when I was 19 years old, reaching in the ocean and pulling out a leg like this, that's all. And other parts, we won't go into that any further. But you know what it does to you. I had recurring nightmares of that for years and years and years. That man was 29 years old. I said, if there's anything I can do to pay my respects to veterans, I'm going to do it. But I started doing that in 1954. I sounded my first taps in 1954. They paid me $5 and they bought me a hot chocolate. Many of you may have known them. Chief Savino, Chief Warrant Officer Savino, he led those firing squads. The 2 toughest funerals I ever had to do was my father's, but he asked me to do it. And then Command Sergeant Major Tony Savino, a couple of weeks before he passed, he called me and he said, Frankie, you got it. You know, it's always hard to play taps because nobody wants to make a mistake. But when you got to do it for somebody you know the pressure you're under. We have so many wonderful things that our veterans have done and continue to do. When I was mayor of Bristol, I had the opportunity to take a flight. Maybe somebody here did it too. I went out, we had 18 Bristol men and women serving in the war zone in Bosnia. And I asked the general at that time if I could go and bring them their Christmas presents. And he told me, you can't do that, Mayor, you can't do that. And I said, oh, okay. But about 2 weeks later, he called me. He said, you really want to go to Bosnia? I said, yes. Next thing I know, I was on a plane from here to Newfoundland, from Newfoundland to Shannon, Ireland, from Shannon, Ireland to Rheinstedt Air Force Base in Germany, and then with fighter escort into Bosnia. And I was so proud to step off of that plane and see my men and women there, 18 of them. Thank God all 18 of them came home. We can't, and we just can't do enough. I will not support a budget that does not put money in it for military funerals. I will be an outright no. I voted no for a lot less things than that. So, but, you know, people have to understand. You know, you see those wives at those funerals. You see the children crying. You see the mothers crying. And if it's a woman, you see the fathers crying. Those pictures on the wall here, if you see them in between the LOB and the Capitol, I've probably sounded taps at over half of those. I can remember doing them in Arlington Cemetery, 17 a day. You know, we have to wake up. We have to realize how important our veterans, both male and female, are. You know, back in World War II, we had women that were nurses, but now they're on the front lines, and they can get hurt just like anybody else. And think about that. What we have to do is say, look, Governor, put the money back in the budget or I'm a no vote. Simple as that. Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to welcome State Senator Guglielmo.
I want to start off by saying I did not co-sponsor that oyster bill in the Housatonic Valley. Just saying. You know, I've been around a long time, so I've done a lot of things. But when I go to a meeting and who's ever the speaker has asked for all the veterans to stand up, that is one of my proudest moments. That's absolutely the truth. Last May, I went to Normandy. And I took the tour. I was on Omaha Beach, Utah Beach, and then we went to the American Cemetery. And if you ever get a chance, make sure you do it. It's 10,000 white crosses, immaculately done, with the rank, name, and age of those that were deceased, 10,000. It stuns you into silence when you think of the sacrifice. Those young men and women who never got a chance to do what you and I are doing, become a father, grandfather, enjoy all of those kind of things. So, and we stayed there for taps. And if you don't have a tear in your eye then, you're a pretty hard man. So I will say this, that there's no way that any of us up here are going to vote for any budget that has cuts to these veterans' honors. No way. That's not happening. And I'm going to make a prediction. We will prevail. Thank you.
We'd now like to welcome State Senator Markley.
Thank you very much. You know, there is behind me, right up there, a kind of a history lesson in a memorial. Putnam leaving the plow, it says. It's a representation of Israel Putnam given word while he was out plowing his fields that the Revolutionary War had broken out, that the British had attacked the colonists in Lexington. And Putnam, without unhooking his oxen, hopped on his horse and rode up to Boston and organized the troops. We honor him in stone up there, just like Frank Nicastro honored our veterans playing taps before, honoring them in sound. And those honors are important, not just for the person who's memorialized, but to pass on from generation to generation the knowledge of sacrifice, the devotion to country, and the acknowledgement of that sacred honor. I would encourage you, you know, Jefferson said, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And now the veterans here have done their part in time, but that vigilance is demanded forever. And what I would encourage you to do is, now that you're here, continue to stand up for your country by being aware and involved in the political process. Know who your state legislators are, your state representative and your state senator. Get to know those men and women, and you will be able to influence them at moments like this when their vote is so important to you. And be involved in the political process if you can stand it. Let me say this, you put up with a certain amount of BS, I suspect, in the military. You might have a little bit more in politics, but it's the same service if you be part of this process. We want to do our best, but we need the support of people who understand what this country is all about. So don't leave us alone up here. Do what you did today. Continue to serve this country by making your voices heard up here in Hartford. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
We'd now like to welcome State Senator Kane.
Wait, don't go away. I want to start off the hat for the speaker system. Oh, thank you. And don't let Joe Markley get away and say he's a fiscal conservative. You make sure you get a few bucks from him. I serve as the ranking Republican member on the Appropriations Committee. So me, more than most, know that we're in difficult budget times and we have a large deficit in front of us. But I tell you this, I bet you we can find $400,000 in bureaucracy before we cut the military services for our veterans. Just two quick things, and I too did not serve, but my dad was served in the Korean War, and we lost him when I was 17 years old. And one of the most important things that I have of his is his dog tags, and I actually have them on the rearview mirror of my car, and you're welcome to check it out up front. But I've always looked at those, and I think of the men and women that served our country, both currently and in the past, to make sure that we honor their sacrifice and their service, because if it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you. One of the names that was mentioned, there were a few that came from my district, but one of the names that was mentioned was a Major Stephen Reich. And Stephen Reich, many of you may have seen that movie Lone Survivor, which was very popular not too long ago. And Stephen Reich went to Chappaqua High School in Washington, Connecticut, and then to the United States Military Academy at West Point, and was an amazing athlete. Stephen was drafted by the New York Yankees, and he gave that up so he can re-enlist in the service, and of course gave his ultimate sacrifice, giving his life for his fellow troops over in the Middle East. So it's sacrifices like that that make me pause when we look at these situations today and say, there's no way we can cut a service like that when we have men and women who give it all for our country, and we need to give it back to them. Thank you.
Now I'd like to welcome State Senator Yacarino.
Thank you very much. It's actually State Representative. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. It's such an honor to be in front of you and for putting this ceremony on. I'll be very, very brief. In my town, I put an op-ed a couple weeks ago about these cuts, and I had outrage from veterans and non-veterans that this is unacceptable. I'd like to tell one quick story about my dad and his honor guard. My dad fought in Guam in World War II. He never spoke about his service. But one thing, before he died, he had emphysema really bad. He wanted two things. He had a placard that said United States Navy Reserve, the years he served, 44 to 46 in Guam. And he wanted the honor guard. And when I heard Frank Nicastro play taps, it reminds me when I was in boot camp, I was in Navy Reserve for 4 years. And it reminds me of my dad. This cannot go away. You've fought for us. Now we have to fight for you. We have to reinstate this money. And I'd like to thank you for all your service and everything you've done for this country. Now it's our time to do things for you. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers today who are going to stand firmly with you all and with all of our veterans to make sure they get exactly what they need. Big round of applause for all of our speakers today. Now I'd like to welcome VFW Chaplain Christine Smith.
Please rise, heads bowed. Uncover, please. Lord, we pray that you inspire our governor, state senators, and state representatives each and every day to appreciate all that they have and all that they have accomplished. For it has been through you that our veterans have ensured that they have the opportunity to do so. Let this knowledge guide them as they deliberate in matters concerning our veterans, so that they may honor our veterans' service and sacrifice for this country. Finally, may they come to know your goodness and love, and allow them to walk in freedom and grace all the days of their life. Amen.
And in closing, we'd like to welcome back to the podium the guy who got this all started, all heart, Sergeant First Class Micah Wellens-Konis.
Just a couple last-minute things here. First, once again, thank you all so much for standing with other veterans here. If there's any business owners And, well, first I'll show this to the representatives, because maybe we could get this or something similar with a veteran parking sign that would become state law. Right, so when you guys could submit this by January 15 next year, if I'm correct? I'll leave this with Tony, because you own a business, correct? And I'm gonna check at Stafford Springs, Tony. Also, Congressman Joe Courtney emailed me, and he would like me to read the following. Today's rally is an important opportunity to focus the attention of the public and public officials at all levels on the solemn responsibility of honoring and caring for our veterans. Connecticut is proud to be the home of veterans of every conflict our nation has endured, and all services who have served and sacrificed on our behalf. The organizers and participants of today's event deserve great credit for reminding us all that we need to remain vigilant about veterans' benefits at both the federal and state levels. Like all those here today, I take this responsibility seriously and recently helped pass the bipartisan Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention Act, which I co-sponsored and was signed into law in February. There is more work to do, and I look forward to continue to work with all those who care about our veterans at the local, state, and federal levels to ensure that those who have worn our nation's uniform have the honor, care, and services they have unquestionably earned. Congressman Joe Courtney. So if I look off to my right here, I see both Republicans and Democrats who I could proudly say are going to say no to these cuts. So I want to thank you for standing behind us veterans. That means a lot. Yeah, and that really said something, because you know, my time in the military, and I think everybody else who served in the military, not one of us before any mission was ever asked what party we belong to. And that says a lot, because this is not a party issue. So thank you again. God bless, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.